Hi. So India has recently abstained from voting at United Nations Security Council on the resolution which was about to discuss the actions of Russia in Ukraine. So India has alleged that it has taken a neutral stand in Ukraine-Russia standoff. So the to get through the idea of why India has abstained from voting, we should we need to go to the diplomatic relations which India was having with both Ukraine and Russia and how these relations were faring up in last few years. So if you look at the tweet by Mr. the Ambassador T.S. Trimurthy, that India is deeply disturbed by the recent turn of developments in Ukraine, and they are deeply concerned about the welfare and security of Indian community, and that's why the dialogue is the only answer to settling differences, and for all these regions. India, it's a matter of regret. India regrets that the path of diplomacy was given up. So for all these reasons, India has chosen to abstain from the resolution.
Mr. President, India is deeply disturbed by the recent turn of developments in Ukraine. We urge that all efforts are made for the immediate cessation of violence and hostilities. No solution can ever be arrived at the cost of human lives. We are also deeply concerned about the welfare and security of the Indian community, including a large number of Indian students in Ukraine. The contemporary global order has been built on the UN Charter, international law, and respect for the sovereignty and territorial integrity of states. All member states need to honor these principles in finding a constructive way forward. Dialogue is the only answer to settling differences and disputes, however daunting that may appear at this moment.
So let us first have a look at how India and Ukraine were sharing their diplomatic arena in last few years. So if you look at the relations between India and Ukraine, obviously Ukraine holds a very important diplomatic position for India, being a part of Central Asia. So it has a lot of geopolitical significance for India. So like Indian students, they are studying in various medical and engineering colleges, and Ukraine provides cheaper. The cost of study at Ukraine is cheaper as compared to India. So more than 18,000 students are in medical and engineering colleges in Ukraine. India is second largest import market for Ukrainian pharmaceuticals. So pharma industry is a strong point, is a strong bond between India and Ukraine. India has trade surplus with Ukraine. Of course, the reason is the pharma industry. India is a global leader in supplying medicines. And as I said earlier, Ukraine has geopolitical significance for India as it is a part of Central Asia, and stability in Central Asia is one of the main diplomatic objectives of India. And Ukraine being a part of Central Asia, it holds a special place for India. But the bottleneck is that in Ukraine's view on Kashmir is not in favor of India. Like in previous UNSC resolutions, Ukraine supported Pakistan, which was anti-India stance. Also, the military relations between Pakistan and Ukraine, that is not acceptable to India. So these two were the bottlenecks which was being discussed for last few days on why should India support Ukraine or why should India should not. Now let us look at the relations India is having with Russia. So if we talk about Russia, of course Russia has a dominating space as compared to Ukraine with respect to India. India's more than 70% of military hardware, India is dependent on Russia. Even though it has seen a decline in the imports in last few years after the starting of Make in India, but even though the present situation is that more than 70% of India's hardware we import from Russia. So obviously we are dependent on them. India needs Russia to counter China. Like China's aggression in Galwan Valley or in Arunachal, we need support. And in this case, Russia will play a major role when it comes to controlling China. Secondly, India and Russia, they are together in space mission. Like Russia is collaborating with India in various Chandrayaan missions and also in other missions all over the world, all over the space. Also, Russia was the main supplier. Russia and India, they together they manufactured this BrahMos missile, which is one of the strong point of India's defense system. So obviously, Russia holds a major role in India's strength, in India's military strength. As we can say, ISRO and Roscosmos the agreement to ensure collaboration in space. And second is that India may get favorable status at Arctic Council. Of course, after the Arctic Council is about to hold an important place in international arena when the North Sea, when the northern route will be free of ice. So Russia will again be the center of talks. So India wants a favorable status at Arctic Council. Of course, it cannot be the member because it does not satisfy the criteria, but it does hold a status of observer, and of course, so it needs the help of Russia. As you can see, Russia's latest nuclear-powered icebreaker, it can boost India's Arctic plans via northern route. So these are often in news. So space. So we have a space, we have a Arctic Council, we have a military hardware, we have to we have to counter China. Apart from these, India has a special interest in Eastern Russia because Eastern Russia is about to explore the resources in eastern part, and India wants to be part of it. Like India is trying to explore, and India is trying to deploy its companies, its oil and natural gas companies, to explore the resources in eastern part of Russia. So obviously, as we can compare, Russia holds a more dominating space as compared to Ukraine with respect to India. But there are some understand that the bottlenecks are that there will be this invasion of Ukraine by Russia. This will set a bad precedent of occupying territories by force. So obviously this goes against the Kashmir policy. Like we cannot support any country trespassing some other country's internationally recognized boundaries, because this is what Pakistan wants to do with Kashmir. So we cannot support Russia's trespassing Ukraine's sovereignty, Russia disrespecting the internationally recognized boundaries. And India may be isolated by USA and other European countries, nations on Kashmir. So if Kashmir issue comes up at UNSC, United Nations Security Council, India may be isolated because of the conflict between USA and Russia. So we cannot support Russia even though we are totally dependent on for various things on Russia. We cannot support their invasion of Ukraine. Also, America's focus will shift to Central Asia, and this will help China. Like if we move our focus to Central Asia and Ukraine, this will dilute the Quad because America's focus will shift to Central Asia, and this will help China to dominate the Indo-Pacific region. So we need support, USA's support, America's support in the Indo-Pacific region. So of course, because of this reason, we cannot absolutely support Russia. We cannot afford to lose contacts with America because of this activity. So considering all these facts, India has decided to stay neutral. India abstained from voting, and which is conforming to its non-alignment policy. Even though Ukrainian president just few hours ago, he requested Indian PM again to help him at UNSC, but diplomacy is a game where a lot of factors are considered. And I think India has taken a balanced route, and which was the need of the time. Though India has criticized that trespassing any country's international boundaries is not a solution. Only diplomacy, only talks can be the solution.